Good evening and welcome. My name is Michael Grand. I am an agent with Farm Bureau Financial Services as past chair and chair-elect of the Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce Board and Directors. It's my honor to moderate tonight's forum. The Johnson County Public Policy Council, comprised of 10 chambers of commerce serving Johnson County, developed today's questions focusing on business and community issues. First, I'd like to introduce the Johnson County Sheriff's candidates in alphabetical order. We have Republican candidate Doug Bedford. Doug Bedford was raised in Johnson County in the town of DeSoto, where he still lives today with his wife of 28 years. Doug has more than 28 years of law enforcement experience here in Johnson County. 26 of those years at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office, retiring at the rank of Under Sheriff, the number 2 person at the agency. As a former U.S. Navy SEAL, Doug knows what it takes to lead. He will bring experience, leadership, and professionalism back to the agency that is needed to oversee the more than 700 employees at the Sheriff's Office. We also have Democrat candidate Byron Roberson. Byron Roberson currently serves as the police chief of Prairie Village and Mission Hills. Before becoming a police officer, he served 8 years in the Marines, including 1 year of active deployment during Desert Storm. Byron earned a bachelor's in criminal justice and a master's in administration of justice. He also graduated from the prestigious FBI National Academy and the School of Police Staff and Command Northwestern University, I apologize. And the School of Police Staffing, I just repeated that. Byron serves as Johnson County Criminal Justice Advisory Council, Casey Metro Investigation Squad, Safe Home, and is the current VP of Johnson County Police Chiefs and Sheriff's Association. Now we're going to go ahead and start a brief 3-minute opening. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for their opening statement. Followed by that, we're going to do some questions and answers, Q&A if you will. And they're each going to get 1.5 minutes to answer each one of those questions. At the conclusion of the forum, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Due to time constraints, there will be no follow-up questions, formal rebuttal time, or audience participation. Please note the candidate speaking order has been randomly determined beforehand with the flip of a coin, and we will rotate back and forth throughout the program. We're going to go ahead and start with the opening statements. Doug, would you like to go ahead and start?
Love to, thank you. I want to thank everyone for showing up today. As Michael told you, my name is Doug Bedford. I have more than 28 years law enforcement, 26 of that again with the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about the Sheriff's Office, and why I believe I'm the best candidate to be the Sheriff in Johnson County. I grew up, as he mentioned, in DeSoto. DeSoto was pretty rural at that point. I started kindergarten, graduated high school. That's where my wife is also from, my wife of 28 years. We have 2 kids that are grown, both graduated Kansas State University, that also grew up in DeSoto. And DeSoto was pretty rural back then, but that's the hometown that we liked. After high school, I then attended a local college, Ottawa University in Emporia State, and played collegiate football. I then joined the Johnson County Sheriff's Office in 1987, and I was a deputy in the detention center for 2 years. And then I left in 1989 to join the United States Navy, where I became a United States Navy SEAL. I was with SEAL Team 3 in Coronado, California. I did 3 overseas deployments, including a combat deployment with Desert Shield, Desert Storm. What that's taught me in the SEAL teams was leadership, and that taught me teamwork. And that's what is imperative that you have to have in law enforcement and at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. Our whole campaign has been based on 3 fundamental core concepts. That is trust, teamwork, and transparency. I want people to be comfortable. I want them to trust law enforcement when they pick up the phone and law enforcement shows up at their door. Teamwork. It was instilled in me through the SEAL teams and in the sports that I played throughout my life. You have to have teamwork. People have to work together. That's what makes everything better. That's what makes our community safer. Transparency. There's a number of things that people want to know that goes on at the sheriff's office, in law enforcement as a whole. They want to know about a case that's being worked. They want to know is their community safe? What is money being spent on? It's your taxpayer money. That's part of the transparency that each and every one of you in this room deserve to know. And that's what I want to bring back to the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. We need to make sure that happens. The Sheriff's Office, as Michael said, it's an agency of over 700 people. As the undersheriff, I help manage that group. There's over 500 sworn employees at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. A budget, while I was there, of $90 million, and the projected budget for 2025 is $121 million. I have worked in those positions. I have worked at that agency. There's 12 different divisions, and I've worked or done jobs involved with 10 of those. I have what it takes to be the sheriff, and I'm looking forward to being the next sheriff in Johnson County, Kansas.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Byron, sir?
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to both the chambers of the Gardner and to Spring Hill. Appreciate you letting us be here to talk to our voters. So I am Byron Roberson. I have been the chief of police of Prairie Village for the last 4 years. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Both of my parents were teachers, school teachers, and we grew up in just off of 62nd and Jackson Street, just off of Swope Park. And as I got to middle school, we moved out to Grandview, and that's where I went to middle school, and then I graduated from Grandview Senior High in 1987. I wanted to go see the world a little bit, so I joined the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves. Also wanted to take advantage of the GI Bill, so I did that right after high school. Went to boot camp, and then I wanted to also go to college, so I used that GI Bill to go to Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi. It's I say I'm a Tiger, I'm an MU fan, so is Jackson State, so I just say I'm a Tiger fan. So down in Mississippi, I was in college, and during that time, Desert Storm in 1990 started. My unit was an artillery unit. We were deployed, and I spent 1 year overseas. Came back, graduated, obtained my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and came back to Kansas City to fulfill my dream of being a police officer. So my first job was Jackson County Jail, downtown Kansas City, Missouri. I stayed there for just a little while, and then I went to my first police job. It was Plattsburgh, Missouri. Real cool town just south of St. Joe, Missouri, if you've never been there. And then in 1995, I found this place called Prairie Village. And Prairie Village was looking for a police officer. So I applied and I came to Prairie Village. I'd never really been to Prairie Village, even though it wasn't that far from Grandview. So I've worked every job there is. I've been a patrol officer, of course. I was also a field training officer, which trains the officer when they come out of the academy. And then I went into undercover narcotics. Then I went to the promotion side. I got promoted to corporal. Eventually got promoted to sergeant, became a patrol supervisor. Then I was promoted to captain, and I became a division commander. And eventually I was promoted to deputy chief, the rank of major, where I was over all of the divisions of patrol, staff services, which is also training, and also investigations. In 2021, I became the 7th chief of police of Prairie Village, where I am right now. I believe that I have what it takes. I believe I have what it takes to do this job because I have made those tough decisions. I have been in charge of an agency for the last 4 years and 2 years as deputy chief before that. And I know it takes 3 things. It takes leadership. It takes being able to listen and understand what people are saying. And it also takes vision. And it takes you giving that vision to your entire staff and making sure that they understand the vision and they are on the same track. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Okay, we are going to move into the Q&A. Each candidate's going to get a minute and a half to answer each question. Like we said, we did a coin toss, and the first question we're going to start with is, tell us about what specific experience makes you best suited for this position. Doug?
Thank you. Well, as previously stated, I was the undersheriff at the agency. There's 12 different divisions at the agency, and what we're talking about there is the crime lab. You talk about communications, the dispatch center, patrol, detention, court services, court security. Of those 12 divisions, I have worked in or done the jobs in 10 of those different divisions. And that was either as a deputy doing the role or as a supervisor in those positions. And then towards the end of my career, for 4.5 years, I was the undersheriff. So I would be directly involved. I sat through the meetings whenever it came around to determining the budget for the agency. If it was trying to determine pay raises for any of the staff, I sat with county budget to make sure that that took place and we were able to get what we needed to. I sat through the meetings and had the discussions with the detention center whenever they were trying to determine the contracts for medical providers, things like that for the jail. For lack of better terms, I know where the light switches are in the buildings. There's a lot of crime that's hitting Johnson County right now. We need to be worried about the drug issues. We need to be worried about all of these things taking place. And in me coming in as sheriff, I'm very confident that I can come in and it'll just be a smooth transition to be the next sheriff of Johnson County because I'm so familiar with the organization, the administrators, and everyone that's at that agency right now.
Thank you, Doug. Byron?
So I've spent my entire life preparing for this job. I went to school, went to Jackson State University, obtained my degree in criminal justice. But then I also took time to go back to school as a police officer, and I obtained my master's degree in administration of justice. I used that degree to also teach classes in criminal justice at UMKC. I've also took time to make sure that I was able to go to those schools that were offered senior leadership, senior management. I also learned from other leaders. If you look at my endorsement page, you'll see people like you'll see John Douglas, who was the chief of police for 20 years in Overland Park. You'll see Ellen Hansen. You'll see Steve Cox. You'll see other people like Dan Claiborne, who was our police psychologist. You'll see judges on there. You'll see people that I learned how to be a manager from them. I learned that you had to listen and you also had to understand what they're saying. People want to be heard, but you also have to use that information to make your strategy. And that's the main thing that I've seen with the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. No strategic planning. And that didn't just start just a year ago. That has been throughout the entire last 8 years. They have no strategy, they have no strategic plan. That's why at the time that at the end of the year, they're asking for money when they shouldn't be. So that is why I plan on using that plan and using strategy to become the next sheriff.
Thank you, Byron. Okay, next question. What are your thoughts on ways to foster the best working relationship with the BOCC? Byron, you have the floor, sir.
So to put it simply, you have to communicate with them. I work in Prairie Village, and we are the police department for Prairie Village and Mission Hills, which means that I have 17 council members. I have 2 mayors and 2 city administrators between the 2 cities. That's a lot of politicians. But I communicate with them on a daily basis. And it's about communication. We solve problems that they may have. We solve problems that their constituents may have. And that is what communication does for you. The police chief or the sheriff has to be able to communicate with the BOCC. It's an essential. It's how we get things done. And I believe that's done day one because I have already communicated with the BOCC. I believe that I have a relationship already built with them because that is what we do as good governance of a police department.
Thank you, Byron. Doug?
Yes, thank you. For those, just to let everybody know, the BOCC, it's the Board of County Commission. And so what you have is there are 6 representatives throughout Johnson County that are elected. And so it's a certain region. Each one is in a different region, so to speak. In this region right now, the western part of Johnson County is Region 6, or District 6. And so again, there's 5 others. Then you also have the chairman, the chairperson, and that's going to be the 7th County Commissioner, which is the chairman And so that way there's no tie, it's a tiebreaker, so to speak. So there's 7 people on the Board of County Commission. They determine a lot of different things. There's 28 different divisions or departments within county government. You're talking everything from the sheriff's office, because they determine that they work with the sheriff's office with the budget. And then you go from there and you're talking wastewater, library, road and bridge, things like that. You have to have a good line of communication. I brought that up a little bit ago. The 3 core principles of my campaign: trust, teamwork, transparency. You have to have teamwork. And that teamwork goes with the Board of County Commission. It goes with the chiefs of police across Johnson County. It goes with the sheriffs across the state of Kansas. You have to be willing to work as a team. You can't get up from the table. You can't make disparaging comments. You have to work together, because if they do that, and if you work together, that doesn't mean you have to be able to work towards a compromise. You may not always get along, but come to a compromise, and it's the best for the citizens of Johnson County, and that's going to keep everybody safe.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, third question. Overall, in what ways do you think the sheriff's office is succeeding and functioning well? You're right.
Well, the men and women, again, I was there for 26 years. I can tell you firsthand, the men and women at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office do an amazing job. They do. Of all the areas that they have to work, all the things that they have to do, whether you talk about the investigations division, whether you talk about dispatch for everyone that they communicate with, the safety that they have. The attrition rate at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is less than 5%. In today's economy, today's society, less than 5%, that is amazing. And the reason is because of the way that the organization's ran. The reason that I'm running for sheriff, though, is I was very confident that we could be better. That's why I'm up here today. And that's how come I know that I can make things better. I'm familiar with everything that needs to happen in the organization. I'm familiar with the workings of the organization. I'm familiar with the supervisors within the department. And that's what you have to be. What can be done better at the organization, or why is it such a good machine, is because it's a profession. And everybody likes what they do. They really enjoy working there. The environment is great, and that's where people want to be. We lose officers to city agencies because we train them up and we know they're the best of the best. A lot of those same officers come back because they know this is where they want to be, and they want to retire as a deputy sheriff or a supervisor at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Doug. Byron?
So the Johnson County Sheriff's Office has a lot of good people. There are many departments that I think a lot of people do not know a lot of things that the Sheriff's Office does. They dispatch for the majority of the Johnson County area. They also handle security for all of those 95 buildings that are in Johnson County. They also are the police department for the unincorporated areas, as well as Edgerton and DeSoto. So there are many things that they do. We rely on them for a lot of things on the northeast end of town. Not so much with Prairie Village, but with our agencies such as Fairway and Westwood and Roland Park. The Sheriff's Office does a lot of things for them, and they do it well. And the relationship that the lower officers, the line officers have with the community is good, because they are professionals, because they want to do a good job. It is just a lack of leadership at the top that is the problem. It's not the line officers. It's not the deputies that are working in the jail. It's not the ones that are out there serving process papers all day. That is not the problem. It is the leadership of the organization. That's why we're here today.
Thank you, Byron. Okay, question 4. What areas would you want to make improvements? Byron, you're up, sir.
Have a look at the paper.
I did. I was like, my bad.
So the areas that I want to improve, other than, of course, just the overall leadership, that's an obvious thing that we have to change in the Sheriff's Office, and that is why we're both up here today, is the leadership, is the vision. The main thing that has to change at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is the relationship that the Sheriff's Office has with local police chiefs. I know this firsthand because I am a chief. It's a fractured at best relationship with the top of the organization. And like I said earlier, the line level people work with the other agencies. But if you don't have the top part doing it, if you don't have the top echelon, the leadership of the organization working with the other chiefs of police, you have very little strategy. Just think of all the things that we can do if all of the chiefs of police and the sheriff were on the same page. And that's part of the whole problem, is that there's no relationship with the other chiefs of police. The BOCC, there's no relationship, and the people have lost trust in the sheriff's office. So those are all three things that we have to do if we're going to try to bring this back to a good organization.
Thank you, Byron. Doug?
I do agree with my opponent. We need to work on relationships. That's one of the biggest things that we need to do. And again, I'll bring back those core principles: trust, teamwork, and transparency. You have to have teamwork, and that's what's going to make everything better in anything that you try to do. If you look and, for instance, what's a big fear that we're going to have here in Johnson County? There's always the fear of drugs. Am I correct on that? Because what's going to happen through drugs is that you're going to have low-level crime. People not rattling doors, trying to get into cars to see if they can steal something. From there, it can escalate to a smash and grab. It can escalate to a violent crime. Those are the things that we need to address in Johnson County. While I was there as the undersheriff, we did a number of different things. As for 4 years, I left in July of 21. For the first 4 years, we actually came in under budget every year, something that we took pride in. We were rebuilding those relationships with the city agencies, with the state agencies. We had a great working relationship with the county. And you know how come? I took pride in that because I feel that the job that I can bring is a unifier. I like talking to people. I get along fine with people. I get along fine with Byron. But if you also look at the fact, while I was there, we created a drug task force. There's 17 police agencies in Johnson County. Only one participates in the drug task force, and that's the city of Shawnee. Those are the things that we need to work on. I look forward as sheriff to sitting with Byron and saying, hey, let's get somebody from Prairie Village on this drug task force so we can make the community safer, and that'll help out everybody.
Thank you, Doug. All right, gentlemen, question 5. What are your thoughts about ensuring continued successful recruiting efforts? Doug, you were up, sir.
I thought he was going to go first.
Did I say?
No,
we're good.
it's me. You know what? I think what you need to do is have a great working environment. And the sheriff's office for years, there's a couple of retirees back here that you guys may have more than 20 years retirees. But you know what? There were people that were leaving the Johnson County Sheriff's Office at that time to go to the city police agencies. And you know what? That's difficult for the Sheriff's Office to lose people. It's difficult for any agency to lose people. Prairie Village, Lenexa, Overland Park. But that was also a testament to the Johnson County Sheriff's Office that people wanted our staff. People wanted our deputies. And that's what we liked. What do you have to do? You need to make sure you recruit. It starts at a young age. Let's start in the schools. Let's really start enhancing school resource officers. Let's really start enhancing working with the city agencies. We're going to lose people to city agencies, Prairie Village and others, but that's going to be fine because we will continue to build the sheriff's office will be the building block that we need to have to train people up to get them where they need to be. If we start in the schools, and I know Olathe West has a very good program and others are doing the same thing, we can really start building and we can get new recruits. We hire at 18 at the sheriff's office to work in a civilian position. And so you bring them in at 18, they fall in love with the organization. You may lose some people down the road, but they're still a law enforcement officer and they're still protecting the citizens of Johnson County, and that's imperative.
Thank you, Doug. Byron?
I would do what we're doing at Prairie Village. At Prairie Village Police Department, our officers matter. We make sure that they're compensated properly. And by compensated, I mean, you can't always continually raise salaries every time you turn around. But you should be monitoring what everyone is making in the county. We take what people are making in the county, but we also take what people are making outside the county because we're not just competing nowadays with just police officers. We're also competing against the private sector. We monitor what Garmin is paying. We monitor what Honeywell is paying, because we have to stay competitive with all of those, because all of us have lost officers to all of these places. So not only do we have to make sure that our pay is right, we have to also make sure our incentives to stay are good. So what we have done in Prairie Village is every 3 years, an officer gets 5% of their salary, because they want the same things that their friends that they went to college with that are getting in the private sector. We have to change our thought process. We have to keep these talented people inside the organization. But even maybe more important than the pay and the benefits and the incentives is the culture. If you do not have a good culture, you won't keep people no matter how much you pay. That is why the Johnson County Sheriff's Office has people that leave and go to other agencies. It's the culture. It's not just because they don't want to work in the jail, because they pay more money than most everyone else in Johnson County. It's the culture and the leadership. You change those two things, you'll keep people working there.
Thank you, Byron. Okay, last question. What would be your main priorities as it relates to budget? Byron, you have the floor, sir.
So my main priorities that I tried to get out at the beginning, talked about, last year the sheriff in December, maybe some of you saw this, but in December the sheriff asked for $5 million at the end of the year. And he asked for $5 million because he had no strategic plan. And that's what I hear, that's why I understand from the people who work there, that there is no strategic plan. There is none to speak of. And if there is a strategic plan, it's not being disseminated through the rest of the organization. So the reason you asked for $5 million in December is because you haven't planned for it. So if you ask for that kind of money at the end of the year, you should have been looking to already replace those items that you needed that money for. For my department, we have a strategic plan that we put out for 5-10 years. Last couple of years ago, we bought some radio equipment that cost $2 million. In 10 years, it'll be at the end of life, and we know we're going to need that money to replenish it at that point. So every year, we put a couple $100,000 aside. We encumber that money. It's called strategic planning, and you have to have that. You have to be able to do that so that you don't get caught at the last moment and need $5 million for your budget.
Thank you, Byron. Doug?
Well, I agree. You have to have a plan. It's correct budgeting. We all do that at our house right now. You have so much money in your bank account, and that's the amount of money you need to spend. I wish that the national or the federal government would do the same thing. But unfortunately, we all know how that goes. Again, while I was there as the undersheriff, we came in at or under budget every year that I was there. And we took pride in that. I don't know what's happened, but I can tell you that's why I'm here. Because I thought that the direction that the agency was going, it was wrong, and we needed a change. And that's not to take anything away from the men and women that are there, because I know a very, very high percentage of them that are still there. They're great people. What do you have to do with budget? You have to you have to work with the budget office. You need to talk to them, and you need to say, hey, these are the expenses. These are what we see coming. Whether it be we need new modules or the new systems in the dispatch center. We need 20 vehicles on patrol or in the civil division. You need to make sure that you have all of that determined, and that takes place at county government. Because I was on a committee as the undersheriff working, saying, hey, what are the priorities of how the money should come through? I've sat through those meetings. I've sat with the budget office. I've sat with the Board of County Commission. Those are the things that you have to do. That's responsible government. And at the same thing, look at your staffing. Make sure that they're being allocated accordingly. Can you move one person from here and save money here? That's what management does, and that's what leadership does, and that's what I'll bring to the agency.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, well, that's going to conclude our Q&A segment of the forum. We're going to move into their closing statements. Each candidate's going to have 2 minutes to present their closing statements. Please be sure to highlight what most distinguishes you from your opponent, if you will. We're going to go ahead and start with Doug. Byron. I was just kidding.
You're not getting off that either.
So, for me, what distinguishes me from Doug is that I believe that I have the vision that the sheriff's office needs. Not only a fresh perspective, an outside perspective, because they have had the leadership from the inside for a very long time. For a very long time. As a matter of fact, I can't tell you the last time that they've had an outside perspective in leadership in that role. But my vision is to put the safety of the community first, not politics. The politics need to go in the box after this election is over until the next time it's time to run. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to rebuild these relationships that we have with these other police departments. We already have a very safe community, but we can have the safest community. I've built these relationships with all of these other police chiefs. I meet with them on a regular basis. I've also built relationships outside of this area. I've built relationships with the chief of police of Kansas City, the sheriff of Jackson County, the sheriff of Wyandotte County. Those are people that we're going to need to make this a safer community. But also, we have to do something with our mental health. Mental health is seriously important. We have to change, we have to bring back and re-engage Johnson County Mental Health, which was one of the best mental health organizations in this region, but they're not in the jail. They're not in your detention centers. And that's a problem. We have to bring that back in. And then lastly, we have to rebuild the leadership from the inside. Doug and I probably shouldn't be here. It should probably be someone from the inside who was homegrown, who was raised from the inside. But that doesn't happen. They do not go to a lot of training outside. Everything is influenced from the inside. But if they were doing a good job at building their people up, then we probably wouldn't be running for sheriff right now. But that's what we have to do if we want to change that organization.
Thank you, Byron. Doug?
Again, I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. I think that whenever you have forums like this, it's great to just have people come because you are the taxpayers. That's the transparency piece that I was talking about earlier. Why am I the best candidate? I have 26 years at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. I wholeheartedly agree with Byron. It should be somebody from the inside, and that's me. I know all 12 divisions. I know the supervisors. Is everything perfect? Nothing is perfect. The bad part, or what I really like, let me digress. I like the fact that we can sit up here. I'm not going to sit up here and bash my opponent. I don't need to do that. He's a good man. He's a very good police chief. It's different being a chief of police, if you look at a police agency, compared to a sheriff. The sheriff has so many different responsibilities. And what that is going to be, again, over so many divisions, 12 divisions, over 500 sworn deputized employees, over 700 employees, $121 million budget. Those are the things that I was working on while I was there as the undersheriff. Those are the things that I took pride in. Again, the attrition rate at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is less than 5%. The pay is good. The pay is good, but Overlook Park, Olathe, Lenexa, even Prairie Village, they have good pay. It's not always about pay. Can the working environment be better? Yes. And that's where the teamwork comes into play. You have to empower your supervisors. You empower your supervisors and make them better. If they have to call me, if they have to call up one of the staff members to say, how do I do this? Then I don't need them. But what we will do is work on teamwork with them, and we work on teamwork with the city agencies, with county governments, and with sheriff's offices across the state of Kansas. Because all that will do is make our agency better, it will make their agency better, and it will make Johnson County safer. Because that's what it all comes down to. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, well, that concludes our forum for Johnson County Sheriff. Thank you, candidates, for participating today in the program. On behalf of the Gardner and Spring Hill Chamber of Commerce and all area JOCO chambers, thank you to everyone for taking advantage of this important opportunity to learn about the candidates. Appreciate all of you guys coming tonight. For more information about the candidates, or to watch this live, if you will, these videos and other candidate forums and advanced voting details, visit www.votejoco.com. That's votejoco.com. And please share this voter resource with your colleagues, family, and friends. With that, thank you again for attending, and I appreciate both of your community service and everything else that you guys do for our communities. We're adjourned.